I've got a guy that is dead in his house. It looks like a burglary, but there's nothing stolen. One of the things that we're trying to establish is, okay, why is Dr. Saulnier dead? The crime scene pretty much is a little disorganized. And there was evidence at the crime scene that suggested it was a hit. And I'm not dealing with a professional hitman. So we have to figure out, okay, what's going on in this man's life? And we talk to Rochelle, and all of a sudden we may have a reason why it all kind of came together and he was murdered.
Rochelle, having told Detective Johnson about her former boyfriend, immediately sent up red flags. Was there somebody else part of this whole craziness?
It's Dr. Thomas Michael Dixon. He's a plastic surgeon in Amarillo.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Dixon.
So, you have this information from Rochelle. Could have been Mike Dixon.
So I'm still trying to figure out what's going on, and I knew, well, we're going to get a little bit more insight into this thing. We talked to Dr. Dixon.
Well, we've had a homicide in Lubbock, Texas today.
I told him it was Rochelle's boyfriend, and his first thing was, oh, I don't know anything about him.
I don't know anything about him. I haven't talked to her in months and months.
And I was like, okay, well, that's a little odd because in our interview with Rochelle, she told us that he knew about the relationship.
You know, I'll be honest with you, I love that woman. I really did.
He was obsessed with Rochelle. He was having a lot of problems getting over this breakup. He just couldn't seem to let her go.
I really had fallen head over heels. In fact, made a lot of life changes for her.
We've learned that he's already had a divorce as a result of this affair with Rochelle, but he's not quite over her yet. You know, I've learned that he still loves her. He's got a lot of feelings for her. He's very upfront about, yeah, I wanted her back.
There probably was a very close relationship there between Mike Dixon and Rochelle Shatina. They grew apart because Mike wasn't interested in marriage.
Rochelle seemed to think that at one point Dr. Dixon was probably going to propose to her. And there was a build-up leading to her birthday, and she thought it was coming, and maybe there's a ring. And instead, it's a subscription to the Tea of the Month Club.
And she went ballistic and said, well, it didn't. I remember clearly, it's not a big rock. And I said, no, it's not, like a wedding ring.
When Dixon talked to police, he talked about how he gave you this Tea of the Month Club birthday gift, and it really, really angered you.
It wasn't about the fact that it was tea. Tea is lovely. I don't happen to drink it. It wasn't the gift that upset me. He could have shown up at my doorstep and given me a hug and said, happy birthday. I am so glad to be here with you today. And I would have been the happiest girl in the world. He was not present in any emotionally supportive aspect of my world.
Despite the breakup between Dixon and Rochelle, they stayed in contact with each other. They texted, they went to dinners together, and they even planned a weekend getaway.
She was like, hey, you want to put this back together? And I was like, yeah, I did. And so let's plan a trip, blah, blah, blah.
They had agreed to go on a trip. All she had to do was go up there.
The next day, she's like, hey, sorry, I'm in love with my dance partner.
Okay.
Whatever now. And I was like, really?
But boom, she drops the hammer on him and says, oh, by the way, I'm in love with my dance partner.
Some would say, well, you're throwing it in his face a little bit.
Well, no, I wasn't throwing it in his face. There was, an ugliness from him to me. And it's like, you know what? If you want to have a getaway, enjoy it. Go, enjoy your getaway. I don't want to be a part of it.
After Rochelle ended the relationship with Dr. Dixon, he started dating a medical student who was a couple of decades his junior.
This young medical student, Ashley Wolbert, actually happened to be his alibi because they were having sushi the night of the murder at a restaurant in Amarillo.
What has he told you about Rochelle?
She was Rick's girlfriend. She was really pretty. They dated. Him and his wife were separated. They started dating.
Johnson is just stumped. The alibis of Mike Dixon, of Rochelle, and of Dr. Saulnier's ex-girlfriends, they all check out. There's still the stalker that Rochelle thinks is following her, this big burly man that Rochelle saw in the backyard.
There's something not right here. But that's all that I have. This is a huge whodunit.
What was it that broke this case wide open for you?
When Paul Reynolds called the police department.
My name's Paul Reynolds. I think we got a crime that happened down here in Lubbock. It's a homicide.
Who is Paul Reynolds?
Believe it or not, there are good people in the world, and Paul Reynolds is one of them, and he was scared.
Paul Reynolds is an aspiring nurse who's fallen on hard times, so he's crashing on the couch with his friend in Amarillo, who then tries to commit suicide by cutting his wrists and taking pills. And then that friend starts talking about murder.
I'm staying with this friend of mine. He said he went down there and he said he shot the guy.
And what is your roommate's name?
His name's Dave Shepard. S-H-E-P-A-R-D.
And that was a name that Detective Johnson had heard before.
We have Dr. Mike Dixon. We have Paul Reynolds. We have Dave Shepard.
He's quick-witted and kind of sassy smart.
A picture is starting to emerge. How could they possibly be related to the murder of Dr. Sonnier?